The compound where Agu and Esther lived was modest. Painted beige walls, a quiet gate, and the occasional hum of generators. Their neighbors believed Agu was just a delivery man. A quiet, hard-working man who rode his bike daily with a large pizza box strapped on the back. Nobody suspected that Agu, behind that quiet demeanor, but beneath the surface of that soft-spoken man, delivering pizzas across Lagos, was the real Agu Ezenwa, CEO and founder of Gold Rock Enterprises, a billion-naira conglomerate dealing in real estate, tech, media, and luxury goods. He had built his empire from the ground up with quiet resilience and ruthless precision. But after watching friends marry for beauty and suffer betrayal, Agu made a secret vow. Before I share my empire, I must know she loves me without it. This was the life he chose, at least for now. 6 months ago, Agu married Esther in a modest court ceremony. No fanfare, no bridal train, no family presence from his side. Everyone thought he was just a struggling delivery guy. That was the plan. Nobody knew the truth, not even Esther. One cool morning, Agu sat at the edge of the mattress in their small, self-contained apartment, lacing up his worn-out sneakers. A faded, white shirt hung loosely on his lean frame. He looked over his shoulder at the bed where his wife, Esther, was sprawled like royalty, still buried in her sleep, her silk bonnet barely holding her hair in place. Esther stirred and yawned. "You're still here?" she mumbled, rubbing her eyes and checking her phone. "It's 6:30. Don't you have deliveries to go and do?" "I was just watching you sleep," Agu said, with a gentle smile. She scoffed, sitting up and reaching for her expensive face cream. "That's not romantic. That's creepy. I beg, go get ready." Agu chuckled softly, walking into the tiny kitchen to boil water for her tea. Esther was undeniably stunning. Tall, caramel-skinned, with perfectly arched brows and a curvy figure. But behind her, beauty was a sharp tongue and a heart that had grown colder since their wedding. She had never introduced Agu to her colleagues. She barely mentioned him at her office. Most nights, she returned late, dressed in power suits and perfume that wasn't hers in the morning. She worked at a company called Gold Rock Enterprises, the very empire Agu ruled behind closed doors. She didn't know. Not yet. Sometimes Agu wanted to scream, "That company you worship? I built it. That boss you fear? He answers to me." But he held it in. He needed to see who she really was when she thought she had married a nobody. From the bedroom, her voice floated out. "You know, Mr. Dimeji, the assistant manager, said I might be selected for a special marketing project. If I land it, we'll be set. Finally, we'll escape this life." Agu brought her a cup of tea. "That's great. I'm proud of you." She took it and sipped without a thank you. "I just wish you had more ambition, Agu. Even a gate job at my office would be better than running around with pizza boxes." "I like my work," Agu said simply. She rolled her eyes. "Of course you do." They ate in silence. He had made toast. She barely touched hers. "By the way," she said as she got up to get dressed, "don't wait up for me tonight. There's a dinner meeting after work." "Is Dimeji going to be there?" She paused. "Why are you asking?" "I'm just curious." "Then don't be," she snapped. "Worry about your deliveries." Agu watched her as she dressed in a sleek maroon gown, fitted at the waist, with gold earrings that glinted in the light. She was breathtaking, but his heart ached. This is the woman I married, he thought. The woman who calls me husband in public, but barely treats me like one in private. As she applied her lip gloss, she glanced at him through the mirror. "Don't forget to clean the kitchen before you leave," she said. "I don't like coming back to dirty plates." He nodded. Then she was gone. The door slammed behind her like a final punctuation mark. Agu exhaled deeply, walked back to the kitchen, and wiped the counter slowly. Then he picked up a black-covered journal from the shelf and flipped to the newest page. Day 180. She still looks at me like I'm a burden. I carried her in my heart. She carries me like baggage. But soon, the test will end, and truth will rise. He closed the journal, slid it beneath the cutlery drawer, and grabbed his helmet. Time to deliver pizzas, and maybe deliver judgment. The sun in Ikoyi was hotter than the rest of Lagos. Or maybe Agu was just sweating from something deeper than heat. He rode slowly into the private estate, the gleaming black gate opening after he flashed the pizza company's ID card and signed in. Block D, House 11, he muttered, reading the order slip. It was his last delivery for the day. He parked near a silver Mercedes-Benz and admired the house briefly. Expensive glass windows, polished tiles, and lush green hedges. Whoever lived here wasn't just rich. They wanted you to know it. Agu adjusted his cap, balanced the pizza box on one hand, and walked up the marble steps. He rang the bell. No answer. He knocked again, louder. Still nothing. Just as he turned to walk away, the door creaked open, and what he saw stopped his breath. Standing there was Esther, his wife, half naked, wearing nothing but a white towel wrapped loosely around her chest, water still dripping from her shoulders. Her mouth parted in frozen shock as her eyes locked onto his. Agu blinked. Esther? She stepped back instinctively, clutching the towel tighter. Agu? What are you doing here? I should be asking you that, Agu said, his voice tight, eyes scanning the lavish interior. What? What are you doing here? In a towel? I came for a meeting. A business meeting, she said, fumbling with her words. My clothes got stained. I spilled coffee on them, so I had to rinse them out. That's all. Agu looked at her. Really looked. Her hair was damp. There were 2 wine glasses on the center table, a half-finished bottle of red wine, a black men's blazer on the armrest, and in the air, perfume. Not hers, not his. He took a step forward. You have business meetings? Like this? In a towel? With wine and no documents? Before she could respond, a man's voice echoed from within. Babe, who's at the door? The pizza guy? Agu stiffened. A tall man entered the room, shirtless, drying his hands with a napkin. He froze the moment he saw Agu, then smirked. Oh, you're the husband. Esther looked like she wanted to disappear. Agu turned slowly to his wife. Esther, what's happening here? She laughed nervously, trying to sound composed. Agu, calm down. This is Mr. Dimeji, my boss. I told you about him. We were discussing the marketing pitch I told you about. It's nothing. In a towel? Agu snapped, cutting her off. This is how you do business? Dressed like this? At a man's house? Drinking wine? She swallowed. It's not what it looks like. Then tell me what it looks like, he challenged. Because right now, it looks like my wife is half naked in another man's house collecting pizza. The strange man chuckled, arms crossed over his bare chest. Look, bro, don't embarrass yourself. She told me about you. Agu turned to him sharply. Told you what? That she's married to some broke delivery guy with nothing going for him. That she only married you out of pity. I didn't believe her. Until now. Esther whispered, Dimeji, please. But the man wasn't done. You seriously thought you could keep a woman like this? He said with a mocking laugh. Look at her. Do you think she was built for poverty? Agu's fists clenched at his side. His eyes burned, but his voice remained calm. What makes you think you're better than me? The man smiled arrogantly. Because I'm not riding bikes in the sun, delivering pizza. I have a house, a Benz, I'm the assistant manager of Gold Rock. You are a nobody. Silence. Esther stood still, head lowered. Agu turned to her. So, this is why you treat me like a burden at home? This is why you rush out early and return late? Esther didn't speak. He stepped forward, voice rising. Answer me. This is the respect you have for your marriage? For me? I told you I'd explain later, she whispered. You shouldn't have come here. You ruined everything. I am somebody. I sign her paycheck. Agu's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. And who do you think signs yours? Dimeji blinked, confused. What? Never mind, Agu muttered, stepping back. He looked one last time at Esther. So you're staying? Esther couldn't meet his eyes. I'll meet you at home, she said softly. Agu laughed. He was highly disappointed in his wife. He couldn't believe his eyes. He dropped the pizza on the floor and left, his vision blurred. But not from the sun, from the betrayal. That night the apartment was drenched in silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that sits heavy in the chest, choking the air like smoke after a fire. Agu sat motionless on the edge of their bed, still in his delivery uniform. He hadn't even removed his shoes. His helmet rested beside him. His face, usually calm and unreadable, was now a battlefield of pain, rage, and betrayal. He stared at the wedding photo hanging crookedly on the wall. Esther smiling brightly, wrapped in his arms. It was fake now, a picture of something that had never truly existed. The doorknob rattled. The door opened. Esther walked in like she owned the place, swinging her purse off her shoulder and dropping her phone on the table with a careless thud. She didn't even glance at him. Agu didn't move. She unstrapped her heels and finally looked up. Are you still sulking? He turned his head slowly. Excuse me? She scoffed, heading to the mirror to wipe her lipstick. I said, are you still sulking over what happened earlier? Honestly, Agu, you embarrassed me. Agu stood. His voice was low but firm. Embarrassed you? You stood half naked in another man's house. I told you it was a business meeting, she snapped, spinning around. Why do you always act so insecure? I was about to close a deal worth millions. Do you even know what that means? He took a step closer. Tell me something, Esther. When you left this house this morning, did you already plan to go to his place? She looked away. He asked again, louder. Did you? I went there for work, she shouted. Yes, we talked. Yes, I drank wine. But you had no right to storm in like that and make me look foolish. Agu laughed bitterly. You did a fine job of that on your own. She rolled her eyes and picked up her wrapper from the chair. You don't understand how the world works. This is Lagos. Agu, you think riding bikes and living humbly puts food on the table? You think love alone pays bills? I thought loyalty still mattered. Loyalty? She scoffed. To a man who can't even afford a generator? He looked her dead in the eye. What if I told you I'm the CEO of Gold Rock Enterprises? There was a pause. Then she threw her head back and laughed. A long, mocking laugh that echoed through the small room. You? Agu? Are you mentally okay? You wear the same 2 shirts every week. You bring home leftover pizza crusts. You don't even have a smartphone. Agu's jaw tightened. So, in your eyes, my worth is measured by shirts, phones, and power banks. It's not just about money, she said, folding her arms. It's about status. Dimeji respects me. He knows how to talk. He opens doors. He sees potential in me. And I don't? Agu asked, hurt leaking into his voice. I cooked for you. I prayed with you. I supported you when you didn't have anything. You still don't have anything, she snapped. Silence. Agu stepped back as if slapped. Esther saw the pain in his face, but she said nothing. He breathed out slowly. You really believe that man is better than me? He's got ambition. He's a manager, Agu said slowly. I'm the man who signs his paycheck. She chuckled. Oh, please. You still on that lie? I know my boss. He would never work under someone like you. Someone like me, Agu whispered. He sat back down, head lowered, fingers interlocked. You know what hurts most, Esther? It's not the towel. It's not the wine. It's not even that man. Then what is it? It's that when you saw me at the door, he said quietly, you weren't ashamed of being caught. You were ashamed that your husband was a mere delivery man. Esther said nothing. And even after all that, Agu continued, rising again, you came back here, not to apologize, not to confess, but to scold me, like I'm the problem. She turned her back to him. If you know what's good for you, Agu, stay out of my business. If you don't, I swear, I'll divorce you. He stared at her long and hard, then walked over to the drawer by the window. He pulled out a black leather box. Esther turned as he opened it and gasped. Inside was a gold-plated pen and a diamond-encrusted company badge. A GUEZENWA CEO GOLDROCKENTERPRISES. Her mouth hung open. What is that? Proof, Agu said simply. You married a king, but treated him like a beggar. She stumbled back, knocking over a stool. You were testing me? He didn't answer. He just looked her in the eye, and the silence said everything. Esther didn't know what to believe. Could this be possible? Could Agu, the poor delivery man, truly be a billionaire? Say said no. He must really be trying to pull a stunt to torment her because of what happened. She will wait till tomorrow. Then she will know if he was telling the truth. The next morning, Gold Rock headquarters gleamed under the rising sun. The towering glass building sat in the heart of Victoria Island, like a throne, radiating power. Inside, employees bustled about, unaware that today would change everything. Esther arrived in a navy blue pencil gown, her face perfectly contoured, her gait confident, perhaps too confident for someone who had just been caught. She walked past the front desk, flipping her straight weave behind her. Morning, Esther, the receptionist said. Esther nodded like a queen. Is Mr. Dimeji in? He just got in, the receptionist replied. Board meeting starting soon. Esther smiled and strutted to the elevator. Soon I'll be Mrs. Manager, she thought. And that poor excuse of her husband will be a forgotten phase. In her mind, she had justified everything. Agu had no ambition, no future. If she aligned herself with Dimeji, she could climb the corporate ladder quickly. That was all that mattered. When the elevator opened, Dimeji was already waiting, dressed sharply in a grey suit, holding a briefcase. You look amazing, he said with a grin. Esther blushed. Last night was intense. He smirked. Wait till the promotion letter drops. You'll be sitting on the executive floor. They both laughed as they stepped into the executive conference room. It was a circular space with glass walls, leather chairs, and a long boardroom table. The directors were gathering. Then the door opened, and silence swept the room like a cold wind. A tall man in a crisp black suit stepped in, flanked by security and the company's legal advisor. His presence sucked the air from the room. Esther turned and froze. It was August, but not the Agu she knew, not the pizza boy, not the man in dusty sneakers. This Agu wore authority like a crown. Who is that? Dimeji whispered. One of the directors whispered back. That's the founder, the CEO, Mr. Agu Ezenwa. Dimeji's face drained of color. Esther's legs buckled beneath her. Good morning, Agu said, his voice echoing across the room. Let's begin. No one moved. Dimeji stood up quickly. Sir, I didn't know you'd be joining. Agu cut him off with a glance. Sit down. Dimeji obeyed like a schoolboy. Esther sat still, her eyes wide, hands trembling under the table. Agu looked around the room calmly. There's a matter I'd like to address before we proceed with company projections. He opened a folder and pulled out 2 photos. One of Esther, wrapped in a towel, and the other of Dimeji, shirtless, beside a wine glass. He placed them gently on the table. Gasps filled the room. Dimeji began to stammer. Sir, I can explain. Explain to who? Agu's voice boomed. To the board? To the shareholders? Or to me, the man whose wife you slept with in his own company? Esther let out a soft sob. Agu, please. Save your breath. Security stepped forward. Mr. Dimeji, as of this moment, you are terminated for misconduct, abuse of office, and gross disrespect. You have 30 seconds to leave this building. Sir, please, Dimeji begged. Please, it wasn't serious. She came willingly. She's a married woman, Agu thundered. My wife. And you are filth. Dimeji dropped to his knees. Sir, please forgive me. Agu's fist clenched. He stepped forward and in one swift motion punched him hard across the jaw. Dimeji collapsed to the floor, groaning. Take him out, Agu said to security. 2 guards dragged Dimeji out as he cried and begged. The room remained silent. Then Agu turned to Esther, who was now on her knees, tears streaming down her face. Agu, baby, I didn't know. I'm sorry, she whimpered. I didn't mean to hurt you. Agu stared at her like a stranger. Didn't mean to. Esther, you chose him over me. You spat on my love. You mocked my kindness. All because I wore slippers instead of shoes. I didn't know you were the CEO, she cried. That's the point, he said, voice cracking slightly. You only wanted a man of status, not a man of substance. I was confused, she pleaded. Please don't end our marriage. I'll do better. Agu's face hardened. When you thought I was poor, you disrespected me. You humiliated me. If I had remained that way, would you be here begging? She said nothing. He continued. You are quick to betray me for a man who dangled a promotion. You stood in silence while he mocked me. You sent me home alone so you could stay in his bed. Esther collapsed fully, sobbing. I'm sorry. Please. I'm sorry. But Agu had already turned his back. You're not my wife anymore, he said, without emotion. You're just a lesson. And with that he walked out of the room, leaving behind a woman, broken not by poverty, but by her own greed. The echoes of the boardroom confrontation still lingered like thunder across Gold Rock headquarters. Whispers traveled from one department to the next like wildfire. Did you hear? She was married to the CEO and didn't know? Imagine cheating with your husband's employee. Staff gathered in quiet corners, their voices low, their faces wide-eyed with disbelief. The story was juicier than any drama on Africa Magic. Meanwhile, Esther sat in the HR office, her eyes bloodshot, hands trembling. Her makeup had smeared from tears, and her phone buzzed endlessly, with messages she couldn't bear to open. The head of HR sat across from her, expression unreadable. Madam Esther, the woman said softly, the board has decided not to press charges for violation of company policy, but effective immediately, your employment with Gold Rock Enterprises has been terminated. Esther's heart dropped to her stomach. The HR head stood and pushed a brown envelope toward her. Here's your final salary. You have 10 minutes to pack your things and exit the premises. Security will escort you out. No, please, Esther sobbed. Please give me a chance to speak with Agu. I was misled. I didn't know. The woman's voice sharpened. You had a husband. You had a home, you had love, and you threw it away for a man with a title. So don't act like a victim here. Esther broke into tears. Minutes later, security guards stood by as she cleared her desk. Staff turned their backs. Some stared in shock. Others whispered behind her. Her heels clacked against the tiled floor like gongs of shame. As she walked toward the elevator, she spotted the receptionist, the same girl she once mocked for her cheap wigs. Esther tried to hold her head high, but her pride was gone. At the exit, one guard opened the door for her. Sunlight hit her face like judgment. She stepped outside and stopped, staring up at the gleaming Gold Rock building. The logo seemed to mock her. Beneath it, a massive billboard with Agu's smiling face read, Gold Rock Enterprises, built on integrity, led by vision. Esther's throat tightened. Her world had flipped overnight. The man I looked down on owns everything. Across the street, reporters were gathering. Somehow, the story had leaked. Cameras flashed. Is it true you cheated on the CEO with his assistant manager? Why didn't you know your husband was the owner? Did you marry him for love or for money? Esther covered her face and ran. Inside his penthouse office on the 10th floor, Agu stood before the glass wall, overlooking the chaos below. His eyes were quiet, calm, but inside him, a storm raged. He had wanted to prove a point, and he had, but it didn't feel like victory. The door opened, and the head of HR walked in. Sir, she said respectfully, Esther has been escorted out. Staff morale is shaken, but we're managing it. Agu nodded slowly. Good. Also, about the blacklisting. Do you want her banned from seeking employment in any of our subsidiaries? He thought about it for a moment. He imagined her struggling, begging, being mocked for years. But then he remembered the love he once felt, the dreams he had built with her in his mind, the way she used to smile when he brought her tea in the morning. No, he said finally. Let her go. Let life teach her. The woman nodded. Understood. As she turned to leave, she paused. Sir, for what it's worth, I admire your strength. Most men wouldn't have handled this with such class. Agu said nothing. He simply turned back to the window. Outside, Esther sat on the roadside, clutching her bag, phone in hand. She had called everyone. Her mother, her cousin in Abuja, even old friends she once ignored. Nobody picked up. The world had moved on. Even Dimiji had blocked her. She saw her reflection in a car mirror. Smeared makeup, messy hair, hollow eyes. She barely recognized herself. I still love you, she whispered aloud, tears dripping down her face. Agu, please come back. But Agu was gone. Back upstairs, he picked up his black journal. Day 181. She chose titles over truth, but I choose peace over pain. Love betrayed is a wound that may heal, but trust once broken rarely returns. He closed it and placed it on the shelf. The chapter of Esther was over. Now it was time to write a new one.